How Darren Till affected Khamzat Chimaev.
What happened to Chimaev?
Have you noticed something different about him since he met Darren Till?
If not, then you are in for a big surprise. On July 15, 2020, Khamzat made his UFC debut,
10 days later, Darren Till suffered a loss to Robert Whittaker,
making July 2020 the rise of Khamzat and the downfall of Darren Till.
As Khamzat kept winning and was on a rise, his ego kept growing and he kept on calling out any fighter he can think of.
And one of those fighters happened to be Darren Till himself.
On May 14, 2021, both Darren Till and Khamzat engaged in a verbal call-out during their first face call,
where they both mutually agreed to train with each other.
A couple months later, both Darren Till and Khamzat decided to have a friendly spar with each other,
where Darren Till was supposedly bested.
As time went on,
Khamzat and Darren Till became more than just sparring partners. They became the Smash Bros.
During this time, Khamzat signed to fight his biggest challenge to date,
and that was the top 5 welterweight in the world, Gilbert Burns.
This was the first fight after the friendship with Darren Till.
And just like Khamzat's previous fights, he was expected to walk through Gilbert Burns. And because of Darren Till, that was not the case this time.
With many seeing that Khamzat Chimaev wasn't performing as well as he did with many previous fights, many started to make assumptions that maybe Khamzat isn't training as much as he usually does. And the one that brought out the most was his coach.
And Khamzat's coach, Andreas Michael, was furious watching Khamzat's lack of preparation due to his friendship with Darren Till. The only 2 reasons people could think of was 1, that Gilbert Burns was a lot better than his previous opponents, and 2, that Khamzat Chimaev was doing something different outside of fighting this time, and that was hanging out with his smash bro, Darren Till.
Many fighters have experienced the same situation as Khamzat has been dealing with lately. Every fighter, once they get all the fame, they start gaining a lot of traction from many other, not only fans, but also fighters.
Fighters such as Conor McGregor, he's a great example. When he fought Jose Aldo, his fame skyrocketed. And what happened after he fought Jose Aldo? He got in over his head. He thought he barely needs to train. He thought he barely needs to put in any effort. He took a short notice fight with Nate Diaz and completely disrespected him. And guess what happened? He tapped out in the second round. This has happened to many fighters. Fighters like Jorge Masvidal. Fighters like George St. Pierre. Fighters like Alexander Volkanovski recently. After he had a close fight with Islam, he thought he was invincible. So he took a short notice fight with Islam. And he got knocked out in the first round. And then he came back 2 months later and lost again to Ilia Topuria.
So just like all these previous fighters have lost, Khamzat Chimaev was facing the similar adversity against Gilbert Burns, and still he managed to win by decision. But for people like Khamzat Chimaev and his team, this was a grave loss.
So after this, Khamzat was scheduled to fight Nate Diaz, which eventually got changed to Kevin Holland. And the only thing that was missing in this fight was the videos of Smash Bros all over the internet. And the fans noticed that a lot. And because of that, the performance of Khamzat Chimaev was just like the old Khamzat we knew.
So with this dominating performance, many have came to a conclusion that Khamzat Chimaev was indeed suffering from training due to his Super Smash Bros activities.
Although Khamzat has still been seeing Darren Till here and there, but during his training camps, it's strictly focused on training and not fooling around like the Smash Bros used to. Now with this upcoming fight with Robert Whittaker, which just got announced, do you guys think that he's going to make the same mistake and fool around during his camp? Or do you think he'll take him very seriously this time?